Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey now, folks, we are going to do something a little bit different today. I don't often talk about accessories because I don't usually pimp out my games that much. I'm more concerned about acquiring games with all the faults that carries along with it. But I did get some particular accessories sent to me lately that I thought were really interesting, and I wanted to share them with you. So you can think of this as a normal review or a set of mini reviews. These were things that I didn't feel that on their own I could spit out into a 10 to 20 minute review, but I still wanted to talk about them. And as a spoiler, I'll say that I like all three of the things that I'm going to talk about today. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses, but they all are very particular and useful in certain areas of gaming, and hopefully you'll find something that interests you. We have a cool magnetic dice tower from Wyrmwood Gaming, which is on Kickstarter right now when I'm publishing this video, actually. As well on Kickstarter is the ProMatz, or I should say, I'm getting confused. The name of the company is GameMats, and they have their special ProMatz up on Kickstarter now. And then finally we have the very interestingly named Nutsak Games and their line of dice bags, but not just dice bags, resource bags for any type of board game you can possibly imagine. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Wyrmwood Dice Tower first. Alright, so this is the Wyrmwood dice system disassembled. All of it comes in this very nice cardboard box. Okay, so there's the box. That's the least impressive thing. But it also comes with this cool leather clip-on strap that goes around the dice tower when you have it all together. You don't have to put it in that cardboard box, by the way. It'll all fit into its own box here, assuming you have the whole system. They call a complete set a system, which you don't have to. You can get it a la carte. You can get just the base. You can get the dice holder. You can get the actual tower itself all separately or together. And this is only one type of wood. This is one of the cheaper types of wood that they have. They have a million types of wood that you can choose from. Some of them more expensive than others, for sure. So we'll get to the actual tower in a second. Let's take a look at the base because it's really sturdy. There's little rubber feetsies on the bottom to keep it from moving too much. You have the, let's see if I can focus on that a bit. There you go. I don't know if you can make that out. There you go. That's a good angle. They have the Wyrmwood logo and the rubber pad at the bottom. This is a rubber pad to keep your dice from being too unstable. Then you have the dice container, and as part of the Kickstarter campaign, there's actually a lot of different colored custom dice you can choose as well. You see it has the Wyrmwood logo there, over here as well. Really cool. And then you have a cool magnetic snappy box. Just a very satisfying click. And then you have all the different types of custom dice. This is like a set of dice. So you have your D8, D6s, D4, D12, D10, D20, and they just look really, really cool. Even the dice themselves look cool. So that's all of those. And I don't know, you could use this for anything, really. It just looks really cool. You can keep like the super special secret soldier serum or magical vials that you do your LARPing with because it's just such a nice box. All right, so here's my probably, for all you know, 10th or 12th attempt to put this together all in one shot. It is pretty easy, but I'm not an expert at it yet in order to do it very, very quickly. But as you see, it's got really strong magnets. They all attach together. There's actually little numbers to help guide you along in constructing the tower. Everything snaps together pretty easily. Then it's just a matter of finding out where all of the individual spots go. And the magnets kind of help you lock it in easily. I mean, it just kind of guides you along so you're not completely lost. Although, like I said, I am far from an expert at this. I'm sure there's an easier, more efficient way to do it. But let's just see. There we go. There's that. And then the bottom base snaps in. You're just matching beveled edge to beveled edge. So there you go. You have a completed dice tower. It's going to rest very neatly in it like this. I'm sure you could do that either way, but you want to be able to see the logo on the outside of the box. And now the real test. We're going to take our dice and roll them down. Here we go. There you go. See, they land very, very neatly. The rubber pad on the bottom keeps them from like flipping over. It's very satisfying. Like, there's no ambiguity whatsoever. They just land down there with a thud and boom, they stay on whatever number they're coming up as, and it just works really, really well. This thing could last forever. Just solid, easy to put away. As here, I'll show you. You're just going to take it apart piece by piece. All the pieces will fit into the bottom section here, assuming I do this correctly. If I don't, it's my fault, not the dice tray's fault. But boom, there you go. You wrap it up with your leather thong here. Don't you all have a love for leather thongs? And then, assuming I can do this correctly, boom, dice go back in. And actually, I may have done this wrong. It may be possible to fit the dice inside the box as well, but you get the general idea. That is the Wyrmwood Dice Tower system from Wyrmwood Gaming. I'm pretty impressed, but let's go to my final thoughts anyways. Quick addendum, yes, everything fits inside, including the dice tray, which I think is just super cool. So, with that, now let's get to my final thoughts. Well, it's very possible that my overview right there just did not do the Wyrmwood Tower justice. So let me go ahead and just make this very clear. This thing is amazingly cool. It really is. And I'll also be clear, I'm not into dice towers at all. Which might sound like I'm betraying a certain organization, but no, really, the actual physical dice towers, I've never had an interest in them. I don't have a use for them. I don't know what the big deal is about just rolling dice. I understand that there is some practical concerns sometimes when you don't want to, when you have tons and tons of little bits all around, you have to roll a ton of dice, but still, it just was never for me. Then I got a hold of the Wyrmwood Gaming Tower, which, by the way, I'll just reiterate this. Everything that I'm talking about today, all three types of accessories were sent to me by the publisher, so I didn't buy this on my own. They are very expensive. But they sent it to me. I'm like, oh, sure, I'll give it a shot. It's so cool, and I think I'm finding excuses for myself to use it, and will in the future. I don't know, it's very simple to put together. It seems kind of tough at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's like boom, 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 boom. You know, there's little indented numbers, so that's easy to keep track of. It's very sturdy. Once you've got it all assembled, it seems more fragile than it is. But once you have it locked in there, once it's in its base, it's no problem at all. And I think I actually like the dice holder more than anything else. Not that it's that spectacular, but if you're not interested in the dice tower itself, but you just want like a really cool wooden thing to keep your dice in, if you're into RPGs, that in and of itself is super cool with the magnetic lid. This is just a high quality piece, and I, not being into dice towers normally anyways, I wouldn't imagine ever wanting any other kind of dice tower, like a plastic one or any of these other ones that you see. No way. This thing is fantastic. Now, like I said, the downsides are it's purely a luxury item and is completely unnecessary for anything, unless you make a game involving a dice tower specifically. And there are some things like that, like the Shogun and Amerigo, but whatever. So it is a completely unnecessary item, and it is very expensive. Even the cheaper ones, like the one that I got, I think are between, I don't know, 100 and 200. I say cheaper, I don't mean like cheap quality, I just mean like certain types of wood. And that's the other thing, there's a billion types of wood that you can choose for this thing. Some of them are more expensive than others, some of them are really more expensive than others if you want the complete set, although you could do it a la carte. I don't know who's going to buy just a base though, but maybe you want to buy different types of towers and attach them to the base. I don't know. No matter how you do it, it's going to be a very expensive thing, and you have to kind of make that choice for yourself. Are you going to buy multiple board games or go for a really cool accessory to accentuate them? That's entirely up to you, but if you do make the decision to do it and you really want an item like this, I can't imagine something better than the Wyrmwood dice system. It is so amazingly cool, and I think we need more magnets in all of board gaming, period. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ProMatz. Alright, so this is the ProMatz, or at least one of the different types of ProMatz from ProMatz. This one is 3x3, and as you see, it just has a really bitchin' cool picture of a dragon on it. And that's the thing about this mat, is that you have different options of what you can do. You can do really cool looking artwork. I believe they can do custom orders for you with artwork if you want, maybe your logo, whatever that might be. They have just sort of static color with maybe a nice design, just sort of a, I hate to use the word generic, but that's the word that pops in the head. without, fancy artwork on it. But they also have terrain. It might be a space field for X-Wing, or it might just be like a countryside that you would use for War Machine or Warhammer or something like that. A burnt, any kind of cool artwork you can imagine for a miniatures game, they probably have it. They have a ton of artwork on their site that you can check out. Remember, there's links for these things in the bottom underneath the video. And just to show you the material of this mat, and please bear in mind, this thing doesn't even fit on camera. That's how big it is, 3x3. And there's bigger sizes than that even. There's a lot of different sizes. But it has a really cool, it's rubber backed, and it's got like this felt. It's hard to tell on camera, but it's a type of felt material that is really, it has a good, let me focus that in a bit. It's really got a good feeling to it, but also, if you look up close at it, the picture starts to look a little bit blurry. But from afar, and I think you can tell this on camera pretty well, the artwork looks fantastic. It looks really high quality. Also, it came to me rolled up, so you can see that the edges are curling a little bit. But it was a lot worse, because what happens is the material has a tendency, it wants to roll back. It's not too hard. Once it rolls back, it'll be very curled up like this, but then you just kind of give it a little oomph, and it will stay pretty flat. And I'm pretty sure if I left it out like this, it would just naturally conform to wanting to be flatter as well. Now, one thing I thought I'll try to show you and try to illustrate here, as they advertise on the Game Mats Kickstarter page, is that these mats look good for board games because of the felt material and the rubber on the bottom, which keeps it, sort of adheres it in a way to the table. It keeps your games from sort of jostling around too much. These are, you're not just going to be able to have the game mat move very easily. It takes a lot of force to do so, and everything that's on the mat stays in place, which I thought was pretty cool. Maybe the Shadows over Camelot is not the best example for this, because there's not a ton of smaller tiles, but if you did have a game with smaller tiles, I just thought this game looks cool when you set it up, but if you did have a game with smaller tiles, I think that would be very useful, because they wouldn't be coming apart and you're having to push them back together over and over again. So just something to keep in mind for board games in particular. And isn't Shadows over Camelot a great game? I just thought I'd mention that again. So that is the ProMatz from Game Mats. Let's get to my final thoughts. So it's interesting, out of all the things I'm talking about in this video, I think that the ProMatz have the potential to be the most practical and useful, depending on which one you get. Now, the one that it was sent to me, since I didn't have a particular game in mind, or a miniatures game, when the publisher asked me which one I wanted, I just said, Dragon one looks really cool, let me go for that. So that one is more superficial than anything, because it just looks really cool on the table, it draws attention to it. You have something pretty to look at other than the surface of your table when you're looking down at the board and all the things around it. Although, there is practical matters with this as well. As I tried to illustrate in my video, I'm not sure how well it came across. It can help keep your tiles and your boards from jostling around too much. It is a very high quality, so if you spill things on it, if it gets damaged, if it could resist wear and tear over a long period of time. You can roll it up. I have experience with this personally. If it's rolled up and it rolls out, it looks like it bends too much at the corners, but you can easily conform that back to a flattened position. It kind of has that natural tendency to want to lay flat with just a little bit of urging. So that can be very useful. But what I think is going to be the most useful and what people are going to be most interested in are the terrains for particular types of games. And if you go on their Kickstarter page, you'll see a ton of them. There's a lot of different mats they can do. They can make custom mats, things like that. But there is quote-unquote generic terrain that I think would be very useful for a lot of miniatures war games. I just don't play a lot of those that would require terrain. But if you were playing War Machine, if you were playing Warhammer, Infinity, any modern miniatures game that you want good-looking flat terrain for, this is definitely an option, because you're already spending a bajillion dollars on miniatures. You don't want to have to buy or sculpt yourself a bunch of 3D terrain, not necessarily all the time. The game mat, at least, or the ProMatz, at least gives you a good-looking area to put your stuff on. If you want to add physical, 3D terrain to it after that, go right ahead, but at least you have a baseline to start with. And I think that they're fantastic for that. I also think they're good if you're doing tournaments, if you're doing, you have a game store and you want to spruce up your table a bit. Like I said, I think you can get them custom printed, which means you can have your logo on it if you really want to. So you do have a lot of options here, and I think that because of how sturdy it is, it's a good mat. It's definitely different than the play mats I'm typically used to seeing. It's huge, and I think there's different sizes available, but still, I found it to be very cool. I definitely like the artwork that they've chosen to use for some of the imagery, and your mileage is going to vary depending on what use you particularly have for it. But if you're going to go with one, I'd say this is a good place to start. Those are the game mats for, I'm sorry, I keep confusing the two names. The ProMatz from the company Game Mats. Now, let's look at some Nutsaks. All right, so let's take a look at some of these nutsack bags, which is just a funny phrase to take out of context. Now, as you can see, there's a variety of different bags that Nutsak can produce, but this is not even close to what they have. This is just a sampling, really. And as you can tell, as you see here, there's my custom logo on the bag, which is really high quality. So you can get your own custom stuff printed. I saw some of the examples on their website, which looked like really cool stuff. There was like anime imagery, there's My Neighbor Totoro stuff, and so on. Now, the first bag I just showed you is actually made out of kind of a nylon material, which is really unique, and it's also got this cool drawstring bag. You would probably want to use a bigger, heavier duty one like this for like a ton of dice that you needed to do, or if you had some kind of component, one of your board games that had a big chunky components you wanted to protect, that would be a good one for it. Whereas the other bags here are made of a good felt material. This one, they also have drawstrings as well, but they're not like the heavy-duty ones. But you could use them for a variety of different things. I mean, obviously, a lot of RPGers will get the most use out of this. You have your custom-printed text on them. These little ones are cool because these can be used for resources in a variety of different things. I'm thinking, the first thing I thought of immediately was like Agricola or Caverna, but I'm actually thinking of using at least these for seasons. They're not a total match, but earth tokens, fire tokens, wind tokens. Yes, I know there's no reason the wind tokens should be red. And water tokens. Why not? It makes sense to me, and that's the only annoyance and fiddly thing about seasons is sorting out those tokens. But you can use them for any kind of game that has any type of resource, or you can split them up and put them in multiple games because they're just a good size for whatever. Like a game that you have to do a blind draw of tokens, but there's not a lot of them. You might want to do them in a small pouch like this. So, like I said, this is just a sampling of stuff they have. They have a ton of different bags. Let's go ahead and get to my final thoughts. I said at the start of this video that I don't like to pimp out my games. I don't buy a lot of extra ancillary stuff for them. But I will say that the one thing that if I had to choose just one particular type of item to go through every one of my games on my shelf and to add to those games, it would probably be bags, not just plastic bags. I've got tons of those, but bags like the ones that Nutsak Games offers, because there's so many games I have that either require you to do some sort of blind draw, or there are little stacks of tokens that have to be shuffled up, and then you will flip one over when you do something like treasure tokens. If I sat down and thought about it, there's probably at least 5 games in the past few weeks that I've played that had something like that, and I hate it. It's super annoying. I know that's a first world problem, but I would love to be able to put a really nice, I'll just call them dice bags for the sake of a better word, but a really nice dice bag into every one, or almost every one of the games that I have. And the fact is, Nutsak Games has a tremendously huge amount of bags that you can choose from. Small ones, larger ones, different colors, different materials, drawstring bags, whatever you really want. Some of them specifically cater to certain games, like I mentioned in the overview, bags that will cater to like Caverna or Agricola or Settlers of Catan or Ticket to Ride, all of these different things. Sometimes it's more cosmetic than anything, but sometimes it would be really useful, so I do like that. You can do custom printed bags. They have sort of anime themed ones like My Neighbor Totoro and Miyazaki stuff, so there is that. I would say that they're not as high a quality as other bags that I've seen because they are kind of just, they're doing it on the cheap. They're not cheap bags in the sense, they're sturdy, they're good quality, but they're just not as great or grandiose as a lot of the other dice bags that I've seen. These aren't like big, elaborate things. I still want the dice bag that I saw that looks like a beholder, but anyways, for the price and for what you might need them for, and for just the sheer practicality and usefulness of it, I would say that these are pretty good, and it's definitely a good starting spot if you're just looking for things to help organize your games. They have such a good variety, you should definitely check them out. That's Nutsak Games and their line of dice and resource bags, we'll call them. Okay, so that's it. I don't know how often I'm going to do things like this, but I thought that it was a pretty useful resource because I know a lot of people out there feel differently than me and love accessories and want to go through all the different ones and find out what's best for their collection. Hopefully that was pretty useful for you. We had 3 very different and distinct products. I thought that was pretty cool. So thanks so much for watching. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.